call back. Okay, great. Just hold on.
Matthew Melton's Democracy Show, March 15th, 2020. Getting ready for the show.
30 seconds.
Get inspired every hour right here on
10 seconds.
1150.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Matthew Melton here, talking live from the 425, and I rubbed up for tonight's show here on KKNW 1150 AM. So here's the plan for tonight's show. Tonight is going to be a blockbuster introduction to the concept of blockchain voting with special guest Michael Lujan, a promoter of the idea of merging the Bitcoin cryptocoin blockchain code into our national voting system to radically improve it. And I'll be covering some other shorter topics first, including my weekly COVID-19 Seattle in Crisis update, which is now also America in crisis. And I'll be touching on the Democratic primaries and how about a little AOC for old Bernie Sanders' Democratic campaign. That coming in the first half, but somewhere around the bottom of the hour, my special guest, Michael Lujan, will be joining us to tell us about the blockchain vision of foolproofing our American election polls with what is referred to as Bitcoin blockchain technology, and he'll tell you more about it. And going into the first topic here will be the great COVID-19 train wreck of 2020, which is upon us. And I've been one of the worst places to be in the country right now, besides maybe Kirkland, Washington. What was foreseen a month ago happened the day before yesterday in Kent, Washington, when reportedly a homeless man who allegedly had COVID-19. Now, just remember I said allegedly. This is ridiculous. It was in one of King County's all-new COVID-19 voluntary quarantine motels, which is in Kent, Washington. I guess he must have started craving for what his usual fixes are. I don't know. Don't know that the man drinks or uses any drugs at all, but he decided to leave his hotel room without telling anyone, went across the street to a convenience store from that hotel, apparently shoplifted some items and got on a bus to Seattle. So later, that news story was corrected by network news, and they said that the man indeed did not have COVID-19, so he was not infected. So I don't know if I can believe that. You can use your own judgment on that one. False news in the media is not anything new in modern day, and it's certainly been a large concern that homeless people who are not being properly sheltered would then be contracting COVID-19 and getting onto public transportation. I am personally for the idea of using DSHS to house homeless people. There is no reason why one single homeless person should be given an entire apartment to themselves when they could potentially put 3 to 4 homeless people in each one-bedroom apartment rented by DSHS and Section 8, and they could stay in dome tents inside of that apartment, and that would be their territory, and the rest of the apartment could be common area, and they would be staying off the streets, and there would be less concern about them contracting COVID-19 and riding public transportation and spreading it to those who are going about their business, going to work, going to school, and then of course they would be taking those germs home with them. And we all know the rest of the story there. So I don't know if this man should be punished or given a medal for what he did, but I say give him a medal, and upon receiving it, I would just like a little explanation of what was going through his mind when he pulled that frightening stunt. He let us all know that it can definitely happen. He made me and other people in Seattle, left us patting ourselves on the back and telling ourselves how right we were with that presumption that that would happen. I want to talk a little bit about the primaries now. As for the campaign coverage, well, I know that there are problems in the Republican Party when our POTUS is winning his primaries by 99%. And then there's the Joe Biden camp. Well, he's not a heck of a public speaker like old Bernie is. They say that he has an enunciation problem. Bernie don't. But Bernie didn't just have Michael Bloomberg, who satirically I like to refer to as the Penguin in the context of the old Batman show and movie. And the Bilderberg banker joined his camp. And Ned and I and others are guessing that he is going to buy those bored and rotten old Brotherhood of the Bilderberg's heart's desires from their new man in their pocket, Joe Biden. What do you think about that? Am I crazy? I kind of doubt that I am, but we'll see. Then there's the Bernie Sanders Samp trailing Joe Biden's new success story. And you know that Joe Biden's success happened within the last 2 weeks. He just shot up and passed Bernie Sanders. So my concept to give old Bernie a boost is how about putting a jetpack on old Bernie Sanders' campaign by adding a little AOC as his running mate. Congresswoman from the Bronx, New York City, representing Bronx and Queens, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I've even come up with a little slogan for this one: the old and new. How about it? She's real popular with the millennials, those bunch of pigs, socialist ones I mean, and she's sure to fire up younger voters and inspire their voting interest. And she's so far left that I call her a modern female version of Che Guevara, or if Che Guevara had a sister. I just thought I'd throw that one in there to you tonight. And if old Bernie and AOC wind up putting a little something together for the November election, I honestly will love talking about it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and skip over a few things, go to my caller, Michael Lujan, who's waiting in queue, and we're going to start talking about a great idea of improving the nation's election system, which is adding the Bitcoin blockchain. So I'd like to introduce Michael Lujan. Michael Lujan, are you there? Good evening, Michael. And thank you so much for joining the show this evening. Welcome to Matthew Melton's Democracy Show. I'm interested in hearing about what the blockchain can do to improve our national election system tonight. How's it going in PA? I'm reading that the weather is 44 degrees and sunny, and that your cases of COVID-19, novel coronavirus, are only somewhere around 63 total right now. Do you feel prepared for the declared state of emergency that is upon us? What is your opinion on wearing masks? Well, I'm happy to hear that. We in the Seattle area are very fortunate to be a port city and also in a major freeway corridor that has lots of trucking industry. So I don't suspect that we'll be one of the parts of the country that will run out of any food or toiletry supplies or cleaning supplies either. That's all positive, but of course we care about the whole country, not just Seattle. My main concern here is that we're the hot spot for the COVID-19. But we're not here to talk about COVID-19. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about what does the Bitcoin look like to the average person, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to apply the Bitcoin blockchain code to the voting system.
not mutable. It can't be changed. Once something's in the blockchain, it can't be taken out. They're already protected. However, immutable, basically your vote can't be touched. It's just in the blockchain, public information, and there are various sources you go to verify that transaction. So that's kind of just a little bit. I don't actually see voting being directly on Bitcoin. However, there are things that are emerging technology around the blockchain that I think are very viable for that, including tokens. I think tokens can be issued. They can have an oracle like your ID or your social security number like oracle, just to make sure that you are you. So like identity and things like that are already big problems for people today. And this is just another option of the latest iteration of on the market. The blockchain that to verify those transactions with cash and things like that. So that's just an example.
Okay, now you said that the information would become public. So I'm not sure that would work for the American voting system. People like to keep their votes confidential. Is there a way that just for the sake of argument, if it were applied to our voting system, that your votes could be say confidential except to government agencies, that the government agency that regulates the nation's voting? Yeah.
That's a very good point. Bitcoin is not anonymous. Basically, the way that you use it to be private is different than you would use it to be public. So, if you want to be private using something like Bitcoin, you would change your address and feed with every single transaction. And if everybody did that, it would be awfully hard to find out who did what transaction. So, when applying it towards a voting system, there's not going to be any personally tied information to it. I actually them issuing a one-time use code where once it's used, you're the only one that has your private key. If you destroy it, nobody has it. So you if you wanted to take, if you wanted to keep that key, you could look at your vote later on, but nobody else could look at your vote.
Sure, and those keys are in common use today, such as a password for an email could be a key, just a randomly computer generated number with letters.
Well, there's a private key, but then there's also ways that you can use they write it down. So they have Bitcoin improvement protocol. I think that's what the acronym stands for. But anyway, BIP32 and BIP44 are mechanisms that allow you to take a private key and turn it into a seed password. So basically, you would have 12 words as your private key, or 24 words as your private key. So as long as nobody else got your key, then you'll be able to use your vote and nobody else will. So I guess that would be up to legislators and things like that, what to do with those keys. Do you eliminate those keys after you vote? Do you get to keep your key and be able to check on your vote later on? So, and I think that would be important in the long run, but I don't think everybody, needs to have their keys. Especially, multiple votes, things like that. We might want to be a little more private with it. So after you vote, you get your key, and then, that's not tied to you in any other way. They don't know that it's not tied to you in any other way other than that vote and that key lets you be able to track your vote. You can see your vote counted, you can see when your vote was counted, when your vote was cast, and, you would be able to decrypt that information, but really the all they would see was that address to do that transaction. And it would be very, very private.
So potentially we're talking about some type of expiration date where you could initially log on, check that your vote was cast and counted, and you should also be able to know that it was counted, which should very much support the voting system and get more people interested in voting. Also, potentially, I'm thinking when you go and register for the primaries that you would be issued your key at that time. What do you think?
I wouldn't exactly see the voting system as changing much from where it is right now as far as the cost of going there and actually doing the vote. I would think you would go there and you get a QR code, you show them your ID, they would check you off the voter roll, they would give you a QR code that you go scan in the computer, and then using that QR code to stage your vote, and then give you a key with a private key and another slip that has another QR code. You bring that QR code back, and they can scan it and see, make, it'll be a read, just so they can tell whether or not you did vote or not. And that would, make sure that nobody's going in there and not voting. How much of a tragedy would that be to take all the time to go make your vote count? So that's the number one thing. You want to make sure, the users of it may not actually know that they're using this, but by scanning those QR codes, all of that stuff is happening in the background. And you can, you do something like that, and then take the machine home, and you can look it up at a later time if you want it, so you can get rid of it with public information. So, calling something else.
I really like the idea of implementing a QR code in such a new version of the vote.
QR codes are pretty popular when it comes to Bitcoin. If you want to send Bitcoin, receive Bitcoin, things like that, QR codes are pretty widely implemented right now. And so I don't really see that as much of a technical barrier. The idea of actually, voting on the blockchain, if you want to actually vote on Bitcoin, it's not just use your cryptocurrency. You must value to go ahead and do that. Basically, they've come up with tokens that they can issue. So a lot of people probably have heard of Ethereum and a lot of the tokens that are on Ethereum. The scams that are out today, like initial coin offers, initial token offers, and different speculative scams like that. But there's also, the concepts that came out of that, which are being able to tokenize on a blockchain. You're basically using the blockchain as an oracle to say, hey, this was passed using those signatures, and here's proof that it didn't change. And there's the transparency with blockchain.
That sounds so amazing. It's almost like fiction, but it's here. It's now. This technology exists in America and around the world. And if America implements this technology, then we'll end up probably changing every free democracy's voting system in the world. So I have time for about 2 more questions before commercial break. Let me run this one by you real quick. I'm just looking for an opinion on how long it might take America to convert to such a new system of software and blockchain. Could you give me and the listeners a rough estimate of that?
Well, I think we're on the cusp of that technology. Although, blockchain code has been proposed many times in the past, but I don't think most people think that we can kind of overview blockchain. So, we can solve this problem. We can put chickens on the blockchain, or things like that. And they're not like realistic use cases. Adoption doesn't look like everybody thinks. In crypto community, most people think adoption is price goes up. Everybody makes a ton of money, and now the world is adopting Bitcoin. But it doesn't really look like that. It actually looks like you say, hey, I want to go to Wikipedia, and I want to do some knowledge on Wikipedia, micro payment platform. I think that it will be based on the Bitcoin technology, but I don't necessarily think it'll be on BTC, and I don't necessarily think it'll be on Lightning Network either, which is the scaling idea that's come out of Bitcoin Core. I think whoever does microtransactions with that will probably be those. When it comes to blockchain and Bitcoin, it's all about data stored on the ledger, and so the real value comes from being able to use that data, but being able to use that data in a smart way. Just because we can do it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's feasible from a monetary perspective. Or just because you can do something with Bitcoin, doesn't mean it's a good idea. Not everything should be done on it. But voting is the greatest something you don't want to change. You don't want your vote to be altered. You don't want it to be edited. And you want it to be transparent. I'd love to be able to go back and see, hey, did my vote in 2016 count? Sure. I can go ahead and put in the price and I can get that information. Or I can just type in that address and do it. So, as long as it is used in a way that, that it lends itself to it, lends itself to immutable data. So, if you're thinking about using it on the blockchain, you really have to ask yourself, why is this an idea for the blockchain? And then voting is a great one. Voting is almost an ideal item for the blockchain. If you just don't want it to change, you want it to be public and transparent, you want people to be able to change your vote, you want to make sure your vote counts, you want everybody to have faith that their vote counts. And using blockchain, you can prove your vote counts.
Well, I think that faith is an issue that we all care about, and having faith that our vote counted, that our vote was counted, is important. I'm getting ready to go to commercial break, Mike. We'll look forward to probably going to take some calls after the commercial break. And are you available to talk to some callers? Okay, right now we're going to break for commercials, and this is Matthew Melton's Democracy Show. We'll be right back. Are you there, Mike? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is. Go ahead.
Are you there, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So we're on commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to give out the number, and if we get callers, great. If not, we're just going to keep on talking for another probably 15 minutes. I'll try another, give out the number one more time for callers, and then if no callers, we'll talk until the end of the hour. So we've got about another 30 minutes of talk, and then we're wrapped up for this show. Thanks, you're doing a terrific job. This is a great show. This is probably the best one yet.
All right, thanks, Matt.
All right, I got to take the headphones off for a minute, so I'll be right back.
All right.
My eyes aren't that bad, but I think it's better if this is way over here.
Oh, yeah.
How's the call coming through? Is coming
Perfect. Oh, great.
perfect? Great.
Good.
My only concern would be somebody called in and their phone wasn't a very good quality phone.
It is a risk. Yeah, the connection might not be great, but it should be all right.
I've heard many talk shows where the connection was bad and the talk show was still good. So.
Yeah, exactly. Right about 30 seconds.
Are you there, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Matthew Melton's Democracy Show here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, and welcome back, special guest Michael Lujan. We're here tonight talking about the blockchain and integrating Bitcoin blockchain software into the national voting system at some point in the future. Is that viable? Is it going to improve our voting system? Michael's been talking for about just over 15 minutes now, and right now I'd like to welcome callers. Michael is available to answer questions, and the numbers are 425-373-5527 and toll free in Western Washington, 888-298-5569. If you'd like to talk to Michael, give us a call. Otherwise, we're going to keep on talking. And here's the next question. I don't see any calls coming in just yet. So I'm just looking for an opinion on this one. How long might it take America to convert to such a new system of blockchain in the voting system? So if we were to integrate it, say next year, could we get it done within a year? Probably.
I believe we have the technology already, and there are very smart people in the blockchain realm that can do it. And there are new protocols coming out that are going to make it which as time goes on, it's going to be likely it's going to be more and more obvious that it's the solution.
So
As far as a date timeline, didn't have to be working on it today to have it ready, because there's a lot of testing and things like that that we're developing software. And even though we already have the protocols out today, there's additional measures like to be able to go to the Congress, like that, to approve it and to do that. So, maybe in 4 years, that should be a really viable method your vote transparent.
okay, and that leads right into my next question, which was going to be and is, before I write the bill to start gathering signatures for the long process of submitting a bill to U.S. Congress, tell us all over here in Seattle, Washington, and on the .east side, that's right, the 425-206 and the 253, will using blockchain improve the national election system, or as you know, we call the polls unequivocally? Will it unequivocally stop election meddling and gerrymandering in the United States of America? And furthermore, will it replace, or could it replace, our outdated system of voting at the polls and mail-in ballots? Lots of voters still like to use that, including me, and assuredly there have been examples of when those mail-in ballots were not counted.
Well, the interesting thing about the blockchain is kind of how the network propagates itself. So in a normal network, you have two computers and you talk to each other. And if computer A has the information computer B needs, if they're directly connected on a network, I would just send it to you. Now the way the internet works is a little bit different. The network sends out a request and then goes and tries to find it. It uses a DNS, like a domain name server, and then it uses a local system, to route it. So the way blockchain differs in that is that the network is propagated to every member of the network. So if you have a full node on the network, you have the same information as every other full node has. And the importance of that is that if you install on the latest gas, I guess you could call them, where they run software that displays in votes from a certain area, and the software just wasn't working right. It doesn't work that way with blockchain. If you send your vote in, it would be on everybody that's on the network. Everybody probably by making the data the same on all of them, you would no longer have a single point of failure. You know, even if a node leaves the network, you could ask any of the other nodes what that data was, and it would still be there. So, you know, the blockchain is a totally different network than, say, the internet, the way the internet functions today. And then that's one of the important things about it, is that it's not just a ragtag network. It's actually a Mandela network, where there's a lot of connectivity. There's a lot less hops to find out the information that you need. You no longer have to go to the domain system and go ahead and, you know, hop to the server that has your information and then hop back. In a blockchain, all the nodes have the same information. So you could reach any node and get the information, and you could check with any other node that the information was correct. So not only do you have a source of information, you also have node sources to validate that information again.
That's very, very incredible technology. And what I foresee is that some innovative company or potentially political party could actually start experimenting and fund their own experimentation and set up devise systems to prove that this technology is viable for our nation's voting system before it becomes a bill that goes to Congress that's probably going to have to become an amendment before anyone would agree to it. I don't know how many years down the road that could be, but I mean, considering that the Russians have verifiably done election meddling in the 2017 and already now in this presidential primary, I would say that we can definitely use it now. So.
And it's not just that, Matt. There's a lot of disconnect between making your vote and being sure that it's going to count. So, how the municipalities delaying the vote count and getting the vote count and the process that it goes through, the handling of it and everything like that. It usually alleviates a lot of those concerns. If someone votes, they can verify that it's counted. And I think that's, probably the most epic thing out there.
I think that's just amazing, and America needs ethics in voting. So now I'm going to change subjects. I want to talk a little bit about Satoshi Yamamoto. Did I get the name correct? Satoshi Yamamoto?
It's Satoshi Nakamoto.
Nakamoto.
The creator of Bitcoin. The anonymous person who made the or at least the first transaction of Bitcoin.
Okay. So satirically, this is meant in satire because this is talk radio and I have to throw a little satire in to keep my listeners interested in this. Do you think that Satoshi could be a woman and not a man? And I mean, could he actually be a she? And is the big deal about keeping the blockchain inventor's identity a secret that some American geek chick using an Asian nerd dude's name actually invented Bitcoin, the blockchain, or do you think that's just a pseudonym and probably it was some secret developer like the CIA, maybe a CIA funded project like Tor, which I know is actually invented by the U.S. Navy, but just for argument's sake, maybe a government-funded project, and that's potentially why there's so much secrecy revolving around the inventor of the Bitcoin.
There's a chance that Satoshi Nakamoto has already passed away. It could have been Dave Klein.
Okay. Well, I'd say I'd like to give out the number for the show again, see if I can inspire any callers and calling. Are you prepared to take a few calls if we get any, Mike?
Of course, I'll have 30 seconds.
Okay, this is the Matthew Melton Show, live alternative talk radio, 1150 AM KKNW. And at this time, I'd like to give out the numbers if anyone would like to call the show and ask Mike Lujan questions about the blockchain and integrating the blockchain into the nation's voting system, or even experimenting with the idea without integrating it. The numbers are 425-373-5527 or toll free in Western Washington, 888-298-5569. Mike is here to take your questions and answer them as well as he can. Mike is a software maker living in Pennsylvania, and he is a very much of an enthusiast about the Bitcoin blockchain, and he has lots of terrific ideas. This was not his idea, but he's an enthusiast of it, and he's a very much what I consider to be an expert in the subject. So if you'd like to talk to Mike, the numbers are 425-373-5527 or toll free in Western Washington, 888-298-5569. And we're just going to keep on talking until I get some callers. And if we don't, we'll just keep on talking until the bottom of the hour, last station break. And then we'll probably be having you on several times throughout this election year, Mike. You're terrific. You're knowledgeable about the subject. And America needs to hear about how we can improve the integrity of our voting system, foolproof it against gerrymandering and election meddling, and that's what's going to be good for our democracy and others. So, I would say, do you have anything you'd like to tell me about that I haven't asked you about regarding Bitcoin or the blockchain?
There's a lot to blockchain. It's huge going out for everything. And, do I think that you should go out and buy it? Do I think that you can make money doing it? Some people can, and some people will. But I don't necessarily think it's something you run out to buy. I think that when Bitcoin adoption comes around, that everyone can know I think there's many uses for the blockchain if it's used correctly. But I don't think it's the way people they go to finance and things like that, and they speculate on, Bitcoin's going to double, this is going to go up, let me get into this token first, and then they lose a lot of money. And it was a big mistake. And I think that's because blockchain is being used to rally up a bunch of money right now. But I don't think that's necessarily the best use for it. That's just one way that it can be used. I think it should be used for microtransactions, like it used to be done, like it used to be in some of the original Bitcoin days. It was really common to send a penny to someone or send a penny to a few friends and send that things like that back and forth. And I think that blockchain will come back to that, and I think that will be the utility that blockchain will get around. There's a lot of things people are missing today when it comes to blockchain. That we've got a halving coming up where the amount of Bitcoin created is going to be in half. And how is that going to be sustainable in 100 years to be able to use blockchain? So, voting and things like that will make sure that that it's being used correctly and that there's money behind it and utility behind it. If you vote on it, you have an interest in keeping it around. It's shown useful, and I don't think
Well, sure, and then potentially the nation could commission the creation of its own coin, its own cryptocurrency, just for the votes. And I would definitely propose that if in the case that some real money was ever going to go into experimenting with this idea, such as for maybe starting with some local elections, maybe some city and county elections, just to test it, and then potentially within 8 or 10 years, we could actually adopt it by constitutional amendment into our national voting system.
And that is a great point. I think that Bitcoin will be increasingly used for research or blockchain will be used more for research. I think there are different things that you can use it for. I'd like to see car paperwork disappear, for example, and see blockchain really do something about that. I think it could also do something about getting alerts to people. So right now we have like emergency alerts on our phone. Blockchain and Bitcoin always had an alert system built into it. To be able to use that for its purpose, which is to let people on the machine know something happened. So this is, say, you had a card, you have a voting system, you had a card system, and there was a recall. You sent an alert message to everybody that had that kind of call. Well, same thing could be done, on somebody, hey, you've got an account, let's send everybody a message that here's where your vote.
Wow, wouldn't that be just so important to our modern election system to have an alert? And I know that the state of California, for instance, has bought a new modern election voting poll system, which is full of bugs, and that the I don't know if he's the creator. He must have had something to do with the creation of it. He will not endorse it because he knows it's full of bugs, and he is not standing behind it, and it's apparently installed in 2 of the largest voting districts in the state of California. And that's just preposterous. I don't know what else to say about it. Is this really America? Is this really the 21st century? And were these things happening 50 years ago and they just weren't public? I think we had a very good voting system 50 years ago before we added all of this technology. But technology is going to move forward. And I foresee that the Bitcoin blockchain system is going to eventually be integrated. It's going to become a bill. It's going to go to Congress, and it's going to be adopted, and it may become an amendment. And it may be 20 years down the road, but we're going to be using it or something else like it. And I'll throw it out on the table. One of my ideas when I was in college to improve the voting system, just to make it easier and also more accountable, to prove that I voted, and so that others would know that I voted, was to use banking software. And my idea then was to vote with your bank card and pay a nominal fee of 50 cents that could be reimbursed by the government with your taxes. Then you would use some very, very well-made, solid software. And this idea was more than 15 years ago that I had it, when I had a political science class in college. But now it's possible to have a much more advanced form of software that I'm imagining, like, is in the stage of MS-DOS when it was first introduced, and it can go so much farther than where it is today, and I know that you know that. Do you have anything to add to that?
That's a great point. The way we see blockchain today is not
Yeah, I mean someday we'll just walk into the convenience store and they'll have the Bitcoin insignia logo up on the counter, and if you have Bitcoin, then you can pay for your Slurpee or whatever with your Bitcoin instead of debit card cash.
Right, it's possible to get, select your phone, and then the problem's really been the on-ramp. Bitcoin on-ramp is very hard. Why don't you go to a Family Dollar or a CVS or a Rite Aid and go pick up a add-on card for Bitcoin? Because the cell phone, the KYC and different media processes can happen. I just don't understand. Where's the lag? Where's the lag? Why aren't credit cards able to process Bitcoin as anything else? We're lagging in a few areas, and I think it's more because they think that Bitcoin replaces their banking system. I don't necessarily think that's adequate. I don't think it was even designed. I think it was designed to have accountability, so that you know that a transaction is processed. It can't be reversed. Once you go, that vote is permanent. It doesn't change. You can't come back and not change it. The finality,
And
once it's done, it's done.
that's definitely what's good for democracy and what's good for the future of democracy. So as you know, we're only an hour show here, and I want to thank Michael Lujan for joining us this evening, getting ready to end the show. And we'll look forward to having Michael on several times throughout the 2020 primaries and until the election, and probably even afterwards, to talk more about implementing Bitcoin blockchain in our nation's voting system and all of the great things that it can do for the voting system and potentially other systems. Thank you for joining us, Michael. And this is Matthew Melton's Democracy Show. Thank you for joining us this evening, and that's a wrap. Woo. It's a lot of talking in 1 hour.
Yeah, I think he's still there if you want to talk to him. You don't need your headphones.
Hey, Michael.
Hey.
Hey, thank you. That was a terrific show. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up what I have to do at the studio. I'm gonna go grab a coffee and I'll give you a call.
Sorry, Matt.
Okay. You have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap.